I'm just being dramatic.
That's right, because
Do you believe in ghosts?
they're everywhere.
Do you believe in them?
Yeah, absolutely.
You do. See, I was saying to our ghost hunters in the green room, I'm kind of like, I'm open to believing in them, but nothing's happened for me to believe in them. Not that I want anything to happen. So I think if I would experience what Alex Atwell, our photographer, okay, we're talking about Halloween, we're talking about ghosts, and a real-life ghost hunt goes on in Metro Detroit frequently.
This is honest-to-goodness research that they do, and our photographer, Alex Atwell, you know him from Uniquely Detroit, he went on this supernatural search with these Motor City ghost hunters. Remember, his name is Alex, and what he found are some haunts that apparently not are uniquely Detroit, but know him by name.
Ooh.
Do you ever get scared doing this?
Not after all these years, but it is fun to watch other people get scared. We're looking for things that go bump in the night. My name is Tim Woolworth. I am a case manager with Motor City Ghost Hunters, and I specialize in ITC, specifically ghost box communication. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to walk the general public through what we do.
We're at the Flat Rock Historical Museum, and we are taking a ghost hunt.
Is anyone here with us this evening? We've come back to speak with you.
Come on in. Join us. No reason to hide back there.
Can you leave me some messages on my recorder?
There's a big interest, especially in October, as to what ghost hunters are out there doing in the dark. What are they experiencing? What are the thrills?
We're looking for evidence of the other side.
Who else would we be dealing with down here? Are you one of the mongers? Flash for yes. Are you yes, that's pretty solid. What we have laid out before us today is a bunch of different equipment that we use on our investigations. We have a FLIR meter, which allows us to measure different heat signatures, a UV light, and this can actually detect blood and DNA matter. We also have ghost boxes. These are some of the most rare boxes in the world. When you turn them on, there's a certain energy that enters the room and it will communicate with you. We're about to do an instrumental transcommunication session, also known as ITC. I'm using a very specialized device called a MiniBox Plus. It allows me to communicate with the dead in real time. You will hear voices come through that say my name, sometimes names of other people who are in the room, and lots of names of spirits that come through as well. Can I get your name, please?
Yes.
Yes? What's your name? Daniel, hi. Yeah, it's Tim. Do you recognize me? I've been here before. I'm asking questions, that's right. Do you know anyone else in the room with me?
Income.
Do you know the man behind the counter, behind the camera? What's his name? So basically what you just heard was a real-time session with the other side. You heard my name, Tim, called out several times. We asked for other people who were in the room. We got Daniel, we got Neil. Most of the stuff, when you listen to it in real time, you only catch between 35 to 40% of it. Most of it comes back. You learn what's on there through playback, and that's why I record every session. I'm going to do a listen back, because I may have got your name, Alex. I heard an A name. Do you know anyone else in the room with me?
Income.
Do you know the man behind the camera? What's his name?
We've been in buildings that are 100, 200 years old. And to be able to explore there in the dark is the best thing ever.
We do about 100 investigations a year. And out of these investigations, we probably say we find activity at a good 65 to 70% of the cases. Some of the places are hot spots, and we go back again and again and again because we love what we get. We walk in there, we pull out evidence continually.
It's creepy, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, one last time. Say your name as loud as possible. Yeah, did you guys hear that? It was some kind of guttural whisper, and the flashlight went on. They just made contact with us. Southeastern Michigan, it's steeped in history, going back 300 years. And whenever you find history, you're going to find ghosts that remain.
Joining us now live in studio are Kathy Strock and Leslie Harkai with the Motor City Ghost Hunters. And you're also a researcher for the group that goes out ahead of that, and you deal with a lot of these people. So do you believe what's going on?
Well, that Yeah, I'm speechless because it is strange that there's names being called out in a room that, I mean, you can't make that up.
Yeah, and Tim, who specializes in that ITC communication, that's when you're using an instrument to communicate, it is not uncommon for us to go out on an investigation and for his name to be called out 5, 6, 7 times, because he's always the one that uses that piece of equipment, and they know that that piece of equipment allows them to communicate with him.
Okay, we've got some other video we want to show.
Yeah,
we've got a couple examples you need to explain to us.
Absolutely.
Something kind of odd caught on camera. Let's take a look at the clip that we have here to see if you think, what was that?
Okay, so did you see how it
Okay, right there.
Yep,
Yes.
goes
Yeah.
towards the center of the room and then it comes back.
What is that?
So this was captured up at Whitefish Point in September of 2011. And if you're
Whitefish Point?
right near the top of the UP, if you're
Okay.
familiar with like the Shipwreck Museum
Yeah.
or the Edmund Fitzgerald, right where that sank, it's right in that area. And the Shipwreck Museum actually has the bell from the Edmund Fitzgerald in it.
Okay.
So we were able to, for a couple of years, go up there and stay right at the Coast Guard crew quarters and investigate in the museum and the keeper's house and the lighthouse and everything after hours. And so this was captured actually on one of those investigations in one of the keeper quarters in the lighthouse. One of the bedrooms that's set up to represent the granddaughter, Bertha. She lived there with her grandparents. Her grandpa was like the longest running lighthouse keeper.
So you think it was the
that
granddaughter,
Bertha?
the
Yeah,
ghost
and
of the
so
granddaughter?
the thing that's interesting though, because, and I think they actually referenced it in the video, is that if you watch closely, when it moves back towards the bottom of the screen, it's one of those historic buildings, and so they have, you know, the chains that rope off a room so
Sure.
you can't go all the way
Right.
into it. You can see the chain actually in the video, and so it's very clear that whatever that apparition or that light source is behind that chain. So it's probably one of the most compelling, yep, they just referenced it right there. You can actually see the chain hanging, and so it's one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we've been able to capture.
Wow. Okay, then I know we have another piece of video about a ball
Yes.
that was wobbling. No, set the scene so we know where we are and what this ball is
Okay.
about.
This was actually just recently from the investigation on Friday night in Flat Rock, and they were in the barn. And the stories that are connected to that location is that there's the spirit of a small child there. And they set up a ball. Sometimes we call these trigger objects. Sometimes we'll bring objects that are connected to a location. If there's a child, we might bring a doll or a toy or something like this,
To
or in
see
this
if
case,
they
a ball,
interact.
to see if they interact with them. And so they set this up.
Okay, it's moving right
and it's
there.
moving back and forth, and they tested. We are firm believers that not everything's paranormal. You need to take a look
Well,
and see if there's
somebody could be
logic and there's
blowing on
science.
it and get
Right,
the same
exactly.
kind of-
And so they double checked to make sure that there was no draft, no breezes that were influencing the air movement. They banged on all of the boards to see if there was any uneven boards that might create some airflow, and it kept rolling back and forth. It did it a couple of times. Probably if you took all those times and added them up, it'd be about 30 seconds of activity. But yeah.
And
it was
Leslie, you
moving
do
back
a
and
lot of
forth.
this research when people think they may have a ghost.
Yes, when someone calls and says, hey, I live in a haunted house, come out and investigate, we debunk. We go through and we look at land records, we look who owned the property, and based on what they're looking for, or I see a man in my bedroom, we look if there's any fact behind it. If there's a newspaper that says
Now,
maybe
what would
there
be a
was...
fact that would lead you to believe there could be a ghost? And would there have to be some type of death occurring in the house?
Yeah,
lot
a
of the
death.
time.
A lot of the time it's a death. Ghosts could be attached to land, but they can also be attached to people. So,
How out of 10 times? How many are they? Is there really a ghost when you get called out?
I would say probably maybe if we're lucky 50-50. There's a lot of times where there's scientific, logical
Yes.
explanation for why things are occurring.
Shadows, odd shadows, lights coming in from outside,
Yeah, it could be headlights,
things
yeah.
like that. That is mistaken to be paranormal
Right.
activity.
Yeah, and there's also there's something called EMF, which
Right.
is electromagnetic energy. Anything, everything gives off EMF, and so some people are more susceptible to EMF than others. And EMF is basically like low-grade radiation, and so an individual that is more sensitive to EMF might experience things like feeling like they're being watched, which is the most common thing that somebody
Yes.
says when they think they have a
Right.
ghost. And so we've actually had situations where we've gone out, and based off of the way that they had their living room set up, maybe they had a lot of electronics and things in that area, or maybe it was old wiring and their wiring wasn't grounded. And so we've gone into those locations and realized that you don't have a paranormal problem, you have an electrical problem, and that's an important thing to fix before
Very.
somebody gets, I mean, obviously it's affecting their health or before there's a fire or anything like that. And
Last,
so,
I don't want to cut you off, but
Yeah.
we're running a little out of
Yep.
time. I want to make sure we talk about the event that's going on this weekend.
yeah, absolutely. So this weekend we are up at we're up in Port Huron at Fort Gratiot, and Leslie, who's one of our awesome researchers, we have this thrill of being able to work with a lot of the different historical museums and everything in the area, and so Port Huron's one of the ones that we've teamed up with.
And this is at the Lighthouse again.
This is at the Lighthouse, and
Something with a lot of history.
Yes.
Yes.
It's the oldest in Michigan, and so we rotate the buildings. We actually go up inside the tower of the Lighthouse and investigate.
Now, if people are interested, can they show up and talk to you after you do this investigation?
They can actually take part in it.
They can take part in the actual.
They can
They
order
still-
tickets. They
yep.
still have tickets available, and they can take part in the investigation. And 100% of the ticket price goes back to the Port Huron Museums.
That's right.
All right. Well, we'll put that link to our website. It's Scene on 4 live in the D.
Okay.
So that you
Thank
can
you, ladies.
perhaps
So
attend
much
and hear
stuff.
your name called.
Yes, Alex.